Namaste. Welcome to SMRITI. We are in episode 3 in SMRITI Talks with Dr. Sarada Purna Sonty garu. Namaste Sarada garu. Thank you so much for coming back again to share your knowledge. And you are speaking on the topic of Aksharapadeeyam in a Tattvic approach, which involves thinking, an inward journey, tapping into the core basics of reality and the existence and the elements in the universe. Please continue with your knowledge, and thank you once again for coming.
My dear viewers and dear Vani, thank you. And thank you all for joining episode number 3 of Aksharapadeeyam. Basically, Aksharapadeeyam is relatively new because it was forgotten for some time ago. Subject being very abstract and subtle, I feel the need to take you all to the subtler, deeper realms of this aspect. In this episode, I would like to touch upon few points. As I mentioned, this is very abstract. So what happens is, Tattvikata, the word itself tells us, it's philosophical. That means it has no structure. We are going to a realm where there is no form or structure. In this, what we need to do is, we need to visit few areas like noun and verb. And the second one is word and the world. And third one is ontology and semantics. Again, that is noun and the language that we use to identify that. And metaphysics, how it has been dealt in the East and also in the West. There's another aspect, knowledge. Knowledge has 3 elements in it: known, knower, and knowledge. Finally, the Tattvikata, that is the philosophical aspect. So, we need to touch upon these aspects. Please stay with me when I'm taking you to these special areas. The first one, as I mentioned, is noun and verb. Nama vachakamu, kriya vachakamu. Essentially, knowing is an intellectual process. Our intellectual efforts all the time points out to a certain point, which we cannot say that this is it. But it will lead to a special area where we experience svanubhuti. So it points out to experience. That's what we have to talk when we mention about nama vachakam and kriya vachakam, or noun and verb. And we understand every experience, we understand the results only in terms of words. Words are nothing but akshara guttulu or akshara guttalu. That means clusters of letters or organized piles of syllables. These letters inside, the names inside that we give to our experiences, are clusters of sounds. And we realize them, we cognize them with that. The whole process of experiencing is always known by our own experience. So the experience within, whether it finds expression or not, it will have a form which we cannot see, but we can only experience. So, thinking continuously happens inside, even if the individual doesn't seek to express. So, we all know our thoughts only in terms of words or letters. And we know that our thoughts are not hanging somewhere in the air. They are within. So we can only cognize them through Akshara Shakti. I'm trying to justify this Aksharapadeeyam aspect through this concept. Energy can be cognized. Underline the word cognition. We cognize any experience, any thought, either by giving a noun form or a kriya form, an act. So what happens here is, so energy can be cognized in a nama kriya bhedam, whether as a noun or as a verb, or nama vachakam or kriya vachakam. So the manifest world, that means whatever we see with our eyes, everything is in a form. It's objective. So Srishti is vastu guna shrayi. That means it depends on objectivity. Means manifest world is objective. That means it has a form. So we have to give a name. And we prepare the name earlier when we think for that object. And we objectify our thought. That is vastu guna shrayi. And the second one is the energy level, the energy that is inside. Chaitanya Prapancham. Chaitanya Prapancham means energy world is highly subjective. Kriya Shakti Lakshana Ashrayi. That means it depends, the thought is a flow. It's a flow of energy. It has no form. So it is a Kriya Vachakam. It means no form, it is subjective. So we are here with objective nouns, no form, act. Two forms here. Let's go to the second step. The second step is word and the world. We all know that the world that we see is tangible. But the word and the thought we have is intangible. So the difference between tangibility and intangibility is the difference between the noun and the verb, or the word and the world. Let us discuss the relationship between the word and the world. Word is world, that means any object is referred. Samni. And word is the reference. So the difference between vak and prapancham is samgnya, soundni relationship. Human cognition, it depends on referring an object by giving a name to it. Meaning, the meaning of the thought, that means artha, bhava, sankalpa, uha, vancha, alochana, all these are in the thought. So we give a name to it. If I conceive an idea, if I conceive a thought, I want to express. So I give a name to it. That means first I have the meaning. The meaning of the thought is given a name. Name doesn't have meaning, but a meaning has a name. There is a difference between the two. So meaning is commonly conceived as a function of a name. What is it name if we say any name, an object, a dog, D-O-G, dog? How do we conceive that? By the character. By the meaning of it, we name it as D-O-G. So what happens here is, name always means something. A meaning always have a name. Please remember these two sentences. That means name is a perception. And the thought with all its meaning is a conception. That means vastu drushti, tatmika drushti. When we give a name in the world, that is a perception. It can change anytime. The name can change. But the meaning of the thought will not change. That is the tattva drishti. So that is the second point. So the word and the world. World is a perception. word is the concept. And point number 3, ontology and semantics. These are linguistic words. It's a process, it's given by the linguist. The words are given by the linguist with a meaning to it. Every time, remember it. If we give a word, it has a meaning. So here, ontology is a branch of Tattvika process, approach. Metaphysics, when deals with concepts in subjective area, they deal with it with a name. So naming is ontology, whereas semantics is, it's not the meaning that we are analyzing in semantics. We are analyzing the form of the name. That means the structure of the name that was expressed. The letters, the grammar, what it shows, what we are intending to show externally. So semantics is a process. And there is a methodological difference between the East and the West. Western mind always goes through intellectual process, very deep, and they find some models in the real world. That means devoid of self. They find the models in the world. And they say that that is what it is. So the world is a model for a Western thinker to show a name and its purpose. And they are happy with the arguments, they are happy with the hypothesis and theoretical rational analogy. That means generally that is the way the approach is. Most of the time for the Westerner, it is southward journey. On the contrary, in the East, what is happening is, from the beginning, while enforcing a very strict rational inquiry, always demands experiencing the process. Their focus is on the experience of the process to verify the result of the intellectual inquiry. That means experiencing the process and intellectual inquiry. For the West, if the intellectual inquiry is outward real world model, for the East, the intellectual inquiry is the experiential energy level area. So what is happening is, in the East, thinking theoretical accuracy is not enough. The accuracy of the thought leads to certain conclusions which are not sufficient. What we'll do is, they have a strong belief, they take it to the belief. The strong belief is that there are many variables and they are recognized and cognized considering the conclusions and the deductions. What happens is, in the East, from the intellectual inquiry, we go inward. In the West, from the intellectual inquiry, they go to the external real world. So that is the third point. Coming to the fourth, the metaphysics. Why metaphysics here? It is a Shabdavadam. Word is nothing but Shabdam. Shabdam has no form. It is only audible form, not visual form. So, in the East, in ancient times, Bhartrhari and this Buddhist monk and a Pandit, Veda Pandit, Dignaga, they both did a lot of work. Bhartrhari is an analyst. He is a linguist and an analyst, whereas Acharya Dignaga is a rationalist. And he is a logician. He always wants to logically give a conclusion to the thought. Bhartrhari, on the contrary, he gave the meaning of the thought with experience. Okay? And so what is happening is, at the same time, Bhartrhari talks about three main aspects. That is realism, vastavikata. but it is not the Vastu Drushti. The true realism is nothing but Tatvikata. And the second one is atomism. That means breaking it to the minutest levels of it. That's what we are doing right now. We are taking it to the Akshara level. And the third one is holism. That means naturally what it is. So what it does, these three levels of looking at it, approaching, it takes us to Akhandavadam, Aksharavadam. That means, again, we bring up the same thing. A meaning has a name, always, but a name is for a meaning. Namavachakam. So, let's say in Telugu, Ardhaniki perundi. Peruki ardham ledu. Any namavachakam, peruki ardham ledu. But ardhaniki matram perundi. That means if we give meaning to a name, it's a perception. If we give explanation to a name, giving meaning, it is a concept. So what happens is, in realism, according to Bhartrihari, it can neither be reduced or objectified. That is the realism. That is Tatvika Drishti. And holism, it's a it's a philosophical term. And this term, what it says is, all parts of the whole, that means the entirety, the totality, the akhandatvam. Akhandatvam, totality, gives a different meaning. Where with all its subtleties and parts in it, it gives a different meaning. That is holism. The third one is atomism. That is, it's a philosophical term. Everything can be interpretable through analysis, going to the elementary components of the same thing. So what happens here? We need to justify this. And the variables are so different. We have to take certain examples for this. We know that there is water. We drink water. It flows. We know oceans. We know everything. But if you analyze, what we get is hydrogen and oxygen. We are not experiencing hydrogen. We are not experiencing oxygen, but we are experiencing water. That means the holism, the totality, gives a different experience. So you need to count the experience to name the process or the meaning. So that's one thing. Or we can take it in different ways. This one, we always end up with questions. It is unanalyzable tendency. We need that. Logical, unassailable state left the mind in a final question always. Logic always leaves us with a question. So the nature of human inquiry, sciences, philosophy, aesthetics require some sort of satisfaction. As we mentioned in the point 2, our thinking always takes us to a level, it's an experiential level, not the logical level. So the next point is 3 aspects, as I mentioned: knowledge, known, knower. It's a three-way, trayi. That means jnanam, jnata, jneyam. These 3. Whatever is knowable is sayable. Whatever is said is knowable. So what's the connection between the 2? We say to the world outside, we know inward. So the inward and the outward are connected. How are they connected? There is Vedic mantra. Acharya Purva Rupam Ante Vasyuttara Rupam Vidya Sandhihi Prajananagum Sandhanam. Which is the Sandhi, which is the Sandhanam? That means, what do we get it? What happens and what results when these two are connected? These two are connected with a word. And so what is the word? It's again, we talked about it. Aksharagutti, Aksharagutta. Aksharagutta is a organized pile of syllables. And as long as we think, as long as we experience and express, point one, as long as we talk the real world where we live in as models of our thoughts. Point two. Point three is as long as we are conscious. Our consciousness is expressed with a model in the world. So the thought, language, and the referent. Thought is inside, word is from coming out, and the referent is the models that we have. So knowledge is not an external, realistic, objectified element. Knowledge is a tattvika tattva, bhavana, chintana, shakti that's within. So, but philosophical speculations and injunctions and factual morality, thoughts and feelings, all this come along with the knowledge. And I'll take you to one more point, Vani here.
Yes, thank you.
Our thoughts should be validated all the time. How do we validate them? We supplement them. How do we supplement? With intellectual consistency. There should be a consistency. And that for an artist, okay, the ultimate validity lies where? When you see a painting, for the painter, for the artist, where does it lie? Or for a singer, where does his ultimate happiness lies? This came about as a theory called Rasa Siddhantam aesthetics, theory of aesthetics. It was to the sky. They have taken it, the arguments and deliberations and theories about the aesthetic importance. Rasa Siddhantam, Rasa Siddhi, Rasa Swarupam. Raso Vaisaha, that means he, the mighty, the ultimate, is the rasa. Experiencing him, that means Atman, Brahman. Experiencing Brahman is rasa. So what happens here is, for a singer or for an artist, the ultimate validity lies in satisfying his own aesthetic sense. He needs to be happy. So he sees the happiness in the listener or in the viewer. In physics, a law, right? In physics, they want to prove in laboratories, reproductions, in many ways, they want a law. That means a siddhantam, a sutram. That's what they prove it with. And physical sciences, their happiness lies in rationality. It needs to yield to logic. Okay. And the linguist efforts, where would they lie? I'm speaking to you. You are listening to me. And my viewers are listening. So what is happening here? My utterance, my spoken words, my expressions take us to the core of the sound that's coming from.
True.
That is much more beyond than the words I speak. I'm taking you to the meaning, the experience. So the purpose. So the philosophers, tattvadrishti. Philosophy is tattvadrishti. For a philosopher, no particular experience can be pointed out and say this is where he is happy. He always search. He always try to take the layers and try to go in. So he will go to such areas within, deep down, and they merge. From there, they trans into a different level. They go to inner space, and from there they transcend, like the rays of the light. What happens, a philosopher, he goes to a place deep down within. From there, he comes out like rays of light, Kanti. That's what is happening for him. Philosophical approach is very dynamic. It's much deeper, highly complex, and it gives away undefinable experience. Tatvikata is that. And it gives immeasurable satisfaction, leaving absolutely no more beyond at every aspect. So the result is exactly opposite to the processes and the systems and the deductions declared by the scientists and the rational thinkers. So we can justify our hypothesis by taking a model. As I said, hydrogen, oxygen, giving water. Musicians usually they sing individually, independently. Every swara is complete by itself. Any raga you pick up, it is complete by itself, each swara. But when you put the swaras together, when you compose, the composition will give a totally different experience. When Balamurali sir says, Pibare Ramarasam, the swaras, the notes, the gamakas, the shruti, the laya, nothing matters. That Ramarasam, Pibare, he said, drink the nectar of Ramanama. When he says that, we transcend from the expression. So the Tattva Drishti is that. And what we are seeing here is a reality of harmony in a composition is in comparison to the individual notes. Same thing with Akshara. When I say a word, when I express, when I talk with all my complex sentences, complex meaning, I'm taking you somewhere else. That is the Akshara Shakti level. And for us to name that, the higher namely, that means the reality of experiencing Akshara Shakti in a language is higher. Okay, let me get back to one point here. For a singer, when you listen to a song, the experience you get from the song is at higher level than the experience you get the swara level. Same thing, that when we talk, the power of my expression lies in the akshara that I'm putting it together as words. Not in the words, not in the sentences, not in the grammar, not in the expression, but the basic happiness is at the akshara level. So experiencing Akshara Shakti helps us transcend the explode within where it originates. Akshara Shakti is an unknown experiential place. And we need to do that. And Tatvikartha and Tatvikata upholds a stronger, a very powerful position than anything else. So emotions, mystic experiences, our sensitivities, all these have to be considered in this process. These are very relevant considerations for the investigations. Logic is a language to interpretation. Okay? And the language of experience is a fundamental energy. Thoughts come quite uncontrolled when we think. But when the thought wants to name it to the meaning, it picks up words. Thought picks up words. Thought means don't think the thoughts that we have. I would call it uha. Uha it's absolutely no color, no form, nothing. It's an absolute pure energy that picks up the words to put meaning into it. So that is what I'm trying to do. Mind won't accept. And the last part I'll come to. Tatvika Drishti. Vak expressed is tangible. The meaning is following the vak. The meaning in the energy state is Akshara state. So what is happening here? There are three parts here. In this speech, it's an act, it's an action. It has theories. Bhasha Ucharana. Bhasha Ucharana. Please remember this. It's important because in the next episode, we are going into this particular level. So the second one is, as I said, first is speech that comes out. Second is thoughts, and then semantics. What are the semantics? The analyzation of the thoughts. So the second one, the singer, song, and the listener. That means Vakta, Shrota, Vak. Gayaka, Shrota, Ganam. Three levels, right? There is a bridge. Sandhanam, the Sandhi is the bridge. Sandhanam is flow, the symbiotic process. Okay? So here, it involves emotions, responses, implicit or implied. That means whatever is Shabda Bija, Shabda Bhava, Shabda Rupa. Three aspects here. Shabda Bija means Aksharam. Shabda Bhava means the meaning. Shabda Rupa means the word. We need to talk about this. And it depends upon the Akshara that we choose. Akshara gives a inherent linguistic potency to it, to whatever we pick up for our expression. It's a natural linguistic competence. Akshara has a natural linguistic competence. So, word and the world together, the word and the world together give a form and a structure, meaning, experience, and integrity. They are complete. It's called Sampurna Maryada. So finally, every expression, it involves the first Uha, and then our Vancha, that means it's the desire, Sankalpa, our want to do it,
Intention.
and then Bhava, the intention behind it, Ayatanam, that means the imagery that we have in our knowledge bank. To name, we need to give a name. For that, we find the Artha, the meaning. We give a Rupa, that means a name, that is Namavachaka. For that Namavachaka, we pick up Akshara. Aksharas, we make them into Padam. That Padam, we bring it to our emotional state of mind, that is Manas. And the Manas, once we desire it, the Agni inside combines with Vayu, becomes Prana, it picks up Kanti, and it comes to from Hridayasthana, where Nadasthana, we talked about it before. And at the Hridayasthana, it picks up Kanti, it blooms. And it blooms into Nadam. That Nadam is nothing but Dhani. That Dhani becomes Vak in the oral cavity at the 6 articulation points, and it comes as Vaikari. So for this Vaikari, such a huge, enormous, seamless, boundless world, the fundamental area, the basic area, is the Aksharasthana. So understanding the power of Akshara is Aksharapadeeyam. In our next session, we will talk about all the letters that we pronounce and what it means. Why do we pick up that particular letter? Why? Why would I pick up that? Why can't I pick up? There are so many, as we talked about, there are 26 letters. Why can't we pick up any random one? But we pick up one particular sound. That means every Akshara that we pronounce has a personality, a tattva, anubhuti, vancha, korika, sthala, kala, ardha, bhava. All these characters are there. So we will talk about all the Aksharas in our 4th episode. And thank you very much, Vani, for this opportunity. And I hope, my dear viewers, you are with me. We are going to a different realm altogether. We are traveling within. It's a fantastic journey. Let's go together. I will meet you next time again. Thank you, Vani. Thank you, viewers. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, thank you so much again, Sarada. What a marvelous journey. Another one. Thank you again. Namaste.
Namaste.